Open your mind. Let the conversation begin.
Okay, I want you to picture something for me. You're watching a movie, a really high-budget, cutting-edge blockbuster. The CGI is incredible, the textures are perfect, the lighting is photorealistic, but then a character, a digital human, turns to face the camera and they smile.
And your stomach just drops?
Exactly, it drops. You feel this sudden visceral sense of revulsion. The skin moves a little too smoothly, the eyes are a little too glassy, it looks human, but your lizard brain is screaming, that is not a person, that is a thing.
You're talking about the uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley.
Yeah.
It's that dip in emotional response where something that is almost human but not quite triggers this deep biological alarm system.
So it's a survival instinct, right?
It is. We are hardwired to detect imposters. But, and here's where I want to start today's deep dive, what happens when you apply that feeling not to a robot or a video game character?
But to reality itself.
Yes, to reality itself.
That is a heavy question to start with. You mean when the physics of the world we live in just, stop behaving according to the rules?
Precisely. What happens when the rendering engine of our universe glitches? What happens when you walk into a town and the audio track just cuts out?
Or when water starts falling sideways inside a dry room, defying gravity.
Or when the internet, this digital nervous system we've built, starts spitting out data that feels aware.
It creates a massive cognitive dissonance. I mean, we rely on the predictability of natural laws, gravity, time, causality.
Of course.
We trust that if we drop a cup, it falls down. We trust that the sun casts shadows. When those laws break, it's not just scary, it's fundamentally disorienting.
Yeah, it's world-breaking.
It suggests the walls of our reality are thinner or perhaps more porous than we like to think.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. Yeah. We are looking at glitches in reality. And I want to be very clear to everyone listening right off the bat.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about folklore here.
No.
We aren't doing the friend of a friend saw a ghost on a highway thing. We aren't reading creepypastas from a message board.
Right. The sources we have today are entirely different. We are looking at cases involving documented witnesses, police officers, prison wardens, Royal Navy cadets.
People who are professionally trained to observe and report facts.
Exactly. And we have hard data, prison logs, sonar records, digital timestamps, things you can actually point to.
We've got 3 specific cases to get through, and they cover the 3 fundamental pillars of our existence. First, we're going to talk about time. Specifically, a physical walk into the past that happened in 1957. It's known as the Kersy time slip.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to look at matter, a case called the Rain Boy, or the Don Decker incident, where trauma seemingly manifested as physical indoor rain.
Which brings us into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis.
Could you just quickly, what is that?
It challenges everything we think we know about the relationship between the mind and the physical world. The idea that your own brain can, leak out and affect things.
Okay, that's a terrifying thought. And finally, we are going to the digital realm, the modern mystery of Unfavorable Semicircle. This one. The implications of the data on this one they're terrifying.
I agree.
It's the kind of thing that makes you want to tape over your webcam and unplug your router.
It's certainly the most pervasive of the 3, given how it utilized the global infrastructure of the internet to broadcast whatever it was broadcasting.
It's a ghost story for the information age.
It really is.
So we have time, matter, and digital space. 3 glitches. I want to get right into the visceral, scary parts, but I'm relying on you to keep us grounded with the evidence.
I will do my best, but remember, the scary parts are only interesting if we can't easily explain them away.
True.
And in these cases, the rational explanations are surprisingly difficult to come by. The deeper you look, the stronger it gets.
Then let's jump in. Case number 1, the frozen village.
This takes us back to October 1957.
So set the scenes for us. Where are we?
We are in Suffolk, England. It's a crisp autumn Sunday morning. And we have 3 young men, William Lang, Michael Crowley, and Ray Baker.
Okay.
Now, before we even get to what they saw, it's crucial to understand their profile. These aren't thrill seekers. They aren't drunk teenagers on a dare.
Right.
They are cadets in the Royal Navy.
So trained observers. These are guys who understand discipline, hierarchy, and, precision. Their entire training is based on noticing details, reading maps, and reporting exactly what is in front of them.
Exactly. They aren't the types to make up a fairy tale for attention. On this particular Sunday, they are on a map-reading training exercise, just a standard orienteering run through the countryside.
Okay, so pretty routine stuff for them.
Very routine. They are navigating towards a village called Kersy. It's a real place, very historic, known for its medieval architecture. It's a picturesque, sleepy English village.
And as they are approaching the area, everything is consistent with 1957.
Totally normal, meaning they can hear the environment. They reported hearing the wind rustling the leaves, the birds singing, and specifically, church bells.
Ah, the church bells.
Kersy has a famous church, St. Mary's. They hear the bells ringing for the Sunday service. They check their maps, orient themselves, and crest a hill to walk down into the village.
It sounds idyllic.
Yeah.
Just a nice walk in the country.
It was, until they crossed the boundary.
And this is where the glitch happens.
It starts with what they described as an audio vacuum.
An audio vacuum, that sounds worse than just quiet.
It is. Imagine you're watching a movie with the volume up and suddenly someone hits mute, not just turning it down, but absolute zero.
Whoa.
As soon as they walked down that hill and entered the village limits, the bells stopped.
Instantly. Like no fade out, no echo.
Instantly, but not just the bells. The wind died. The birds stopped singing. They reported a sudden, oppressive, heavy silence.
So all ambient sound just vanished.
All of it. They could hear their own breathing, maybe the crunch of their boots, but the world around them had gone dead.
That is terrifying. Absolute silence in nature is almost louder than noise. It triggers that primal predator detection mode in the brain, right?
Does.
Like, why is the forest quiet? Is something hunting me?
Precisely. It puts the nervous system on high alert. It's often called the Oz factor in paranormal research. That sensation of being isolated in a bubble of silence right before a high strangeness event.
Right.
But then they started noticing the visuals. First, the church. They had just heard the bells ringing moments before.
Yeah, they were navigating by the sound.
But when they looked up at the church tower, it wasn't there. Or rather, it wasn't finished.
What do you mean?
It was a stone skeleton, half-built, no roof, no belfry, no bells, just jagged stone against the sky.
Whoa. Okay. So causality is already broken. They heard the effect, the bells before the cause, the finished tower even existed.
Correct. It makes no logical sense. And as they looked around, they realized the village was deserted. No people, no cars, no movement.
Just empty.
Empty. But here is the detail that really sticks with me. The detail that suggests this wasn't just a hallucination, but a suspension of physics. The smoke.
The frozen smoke. I read this in the notes and had to reread it 3 times.
Yeah.
It feels like such a specific, impossible detail.
It's a detail you couldn't easily invent, you know? They saw chimneys with smoke coming out of them. Now think about smoke. It's fluid dynamics. It swirls, it drifts, it dissipates.
It's always moving. It's chaos in the air.
But these cadets described the smoke as hanging in the air, motionless. It wasn't drifting on the breeze because there was no breeze. It was frozen.
Like a photograph.
Exactly. Or like a 3D model in a video game where the animation has paused but the object is still rendered. It was just a gray ribbon painted against the sky.
That gives me chills. It's like the rendering engine of the universe just crashed. It's lag. It implies that time itself had stopped flowing in that specific location.
And it gets stranger. They noted that the trees cast no shadows.
No shadows. But it was daytime.
It was daytime. Now, even on an overcast day, there are soft shadows, there's ambient occlusion where objects touch the ground. You can still perceive depth.
Right.
But they described a flat gray light where objects had no depth on the ground. It creates a very specific visual oddity-like bad CGI in a movie where the lighting doesn't match the environment.
It's like the light source was everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. So they are walking through this silent, shadowless, frozen village. The houses look different too, right? Because Kersy is old. It's full of these timber-framed houses.
And in 1957, they would have looked old.
They did. In 1957, those timbers would be black with age, weathered by centuries of rain and sun. But these cadets said the houses looked brand new.
Brand new.
The timber wasn't aged or darkened. It looked like fresh-cut wood. The wattle and daub, the white plaster between the wood, was pristine. It was like they'd walked onto a movie set of a medieval village, not an actual one.
A movie set where the extras haven't shown up yet.
And all the special effects are paused. They also saw ducks in a pond.
Motionless dust.
Just sitting on the water, not paddling, not preening, not even creating ripples, just assets placed in a scene.
Okay, so far this feels like a simulation. It feels like they walked into a museum diorama, It's weird, but it's not. Visceral? But then they look in the butcher shop window. And this is the part that I think is the most visceral. This is the detail that convinces me they saw something real, or at least something that wasn't just a daydream.
The butcher shop, yes. This is where it goes from strange to deeply unsettling. They peered through the glass of a shop window. Inside, they saw 3 oxen carcasses hanging from hooks.
Skinned.
But here's the anomaly, the glitch in the system. They describe the meat as being green.
Green-like.
Rotting, visibly decaying.
Okay, gross. So it's the one thing in this whole frozen scene that shows the passage of time.
You'd think so, but, and this is the crucial but, there were no flies, no maggots, no signs of biological activity that usually accompanies rot.
See, that's the uncanny valley of physics again.
Yeah.
That's the part that makes my brain scream wrong. If meat is rotting green, it smells and it attracts life. It attracts flies immediately. Nature cleans up a mess.
Exactly. Biologically, that is impossible. If the meat is green, the decomposition process is advanced. It should be teeming with insect life. The air should be thick with them.
And the smell would be overwhelming.
They reported no smell at all, just like there was no sound. A sensory void. The absence of flies suggests that what they were seeing wasn't a physical rotting carcass, but a visual echo.
A replay of an image.
Yes, devoid of the biological ecosystem that supports it. It's the picture of rot without the process of rot.
So they're staring at this green, flyless meat in a silent village. I assume they didn't stick around for tea?
No. The dread set in. All 3 men reported a sudden, overwhelming feeling of sadness and fear. It wasn't just, this is weird. It was a deep, primal, we are not supposed to be here.
A feeling of intrusion.
Yes. They felt like they had stumbled into a place of great sorrow. They turned and ran. They didn't even talk about it. They just bolted.
And the exit? Was it as sudden as the entry?
They ran back up the hill they came from. They scrambled out of the valley. And when they reached the top, they stopped and looked back. The spell broke.
Just like that.
Just like that. The smoke was moving. It was swirling from the chimneys. The wind was blowing. They could hear distant sounds again, birds, the rustle of leaves.
And the church tower.
The church tower was complete, bells and all. The village was back to 1957.
Wow, so they just stepped out of the bubble and everything snapped back to normal.
As if it had never happened. But of course it had. And it stuck with them.
So obviously they didn't just forget about this. This William Lang guy, one of the cadets, he looked into it later on.
He did. Decades later, actually. Lang never forgot it. He couldn't. It haunted him. He eventually collaborated with a researcher named Andrew Mackenzie to try and figure out what on earth happened.
So they started digging into the town's history.
They looked at the history of Kersy, and they found a specific date. They took the descriptions cadets gave, the half-built church tower, the specific style of the timber framing, the layout of the streets, to architectural historians.
And they could place it.
They could. They estimated that the version of the village they saw existed roughly around the year 1420.
1420, that's a long time ago, over 500 years.
It is. But the context of 1420 is vital. This was in the aftermath of the Black Death. The plague had ravaged Europe, coming in waves.
Ah, okay, the plague. That casts a very dark shadow over the whole thing.
It does. Populations were decimated, villages were often abandoned or left with very few people to tend to them. This provides a grim explanation for the butcher shop.
The green oxen.
Exactly. Why would you have rotting meat hanging in a shop? Because the butcher died. Or everyone fled. The animals were slaughtered, hung up, and then left.
Abandoned to rot because there was no one left to eat them or sell them.
The whole village was a tomb. And that feeling of oppressive sadness the cadets felt
Was the echo of that trauma.
That's the prevailing theory. It's often called the stone tape theory in parapsychology. The idea is that high emotion events, extreme terror, despair, mass death, can imprint onto the environment itself.
The stone, the wood, the land records the event.
And under the right conditions, with the right kind of observers, the recording plays back.
So it wasn't physical time travel. Their bodies didn't actually move to 1420.
Probably not. It was likely retrocognition, a psychic replay. The landscape itself held on to the despair of the plague and replayed it for these 3 sensitive observers.
Like a recording on the magnetic tape of reality.
Your recording that included visual data, green meat, but missed the biological data, the flies.
Why?
Because the flies weren't part of the emotional imprint. The flies didn't feel despair, so they weren't recorded. Only the human tragedy was.
That is a fascinating way to look at it. It implies that emotion is a form of energy that can be stored and replayed.
Which is actually a perfect transition to our next case.
I was just thinking that.
Because if Kersy was a passive glitch watching a recording of the past stored in the environment, our next case is active, it is aggressive.
And it involves a glitch in matter itself.
Fueled by that same kind of emotional energy.
We're moving from the silence of 1957 England to the chaos of 1983 Pennsylvania. The case of Don Decker.
The Rain Boy.
This one. Look, I love a good story. But this one has police reports, it has a prison warden. It's hard to brush this off.
It is. The credibility of the witnesses is the strongest part of the Don Decker case. You can dismiss teenagers in a house. You can say they were on something or playing a prank.
Sure.
But it's much harder to dismiss a lieutenant in a correctional facility filing an official incident report about something that defies physics.
Okay, so introduce us to Don. Who was he?
Don Decker was a young man, 21 years old, in February 1983. He was an inmate at the Monroe County Correctional Facility in Pennsylvania. He was serving time for receiving stolen property.
So not a violent offender, but someone in the system.
Right. And he gets a furlough, right, to go to a funeral?
A funeral for his grandfather.
Yes. His grandfather had passed away. Now, this is the trigger. We have to understand the psychological context here. This wasn't a happy family gathering.
This wasn't a sad goodbye.
Not at all. Don had been abused by his grandfather since he was a child. The details are grim, but it was severe long-term abuse.
So let's pause there. This isn't a grieving grandson. This is a young man filled with years of repressed rage, trauma, and incredibly complex emotions going to see the man who caused it all being put in the ground.
Precisely. It is a pressure cooker of emotion. Relief, anger, guilt, fear. It's a psychological bomb waiting to go off. And this is where we need to introduce the concept of RSPK.
Recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. We hear poltergeist and we think ghosts, but that's not what RSPK is it?
No, it's a very different model. In modern parapsychology, the theory is that poltergeist activity isn't usually spirits of the dead. It is the externalization of internal human chaos.
So the person is the ghost.
In a way, yes. Usually it's an adolescent or someone under extreme emotional or psychological stress, and they unconsciously release this kinetic energy that affects the environment. Things fly off shelves, you hear knocking.
And in this case, it rains. So Don is the battery?
Don is the battery. He is the storm. So the funeral happens. That night, Don is staying at his friend's house, the Kiefer residence. He's trying to process everything. He starts feeling a chill, a deep, unnatural cold. He falls into a sort of trance state. He's just staring off into space. And then it starts raining.
Inside the house.
Inside the living room. Yep. And we aren't talking about a leaky roof. The witnesses, his friends, the Kiefers, described water materializing in midair.
In air, like just appearing out of nothing.
Yeah.
Not dripping from the ceiling.
Forming out of thin air. And it wasn't just falling down. This is the really bizarre part. It was flying sideways.
Whoa. Horizontally.
Yes. They claimed the water was defying gravity to specifically target Don. It was lashing out at him from the walls and the ceiling.
That's terrifying. Imagine sitting in your living room and suddenly you're in a horizontal thunderstorm and it's aiming for you.
The landlord thought it was the plumbing, obviously. He comes over, he's furious, he checks all the pipes.
And they're bone dry.
Bone dry. The water was coming from nowhere. They call the police come, they see the water, they have no explanation, everyone is baffled. But the real glitch moment happens when Don has to go back to jail.
Right. Because you can maybe explain away a house. Maybe there were hidden pipes. Maybe it was a prank. But Don goes back to Monroe County Correctional Facility.
He returns from his furlough and he tells the guards what happened. Of course, they don't believe him.
Of course not. They think he's crazy or making it up.
Until the phenomenon follows him.
Into a prison cell.
A solitary confinement cell, no less. We need to picture this. Concrete walls, concrete floor, a steel toilet bolted to the ground. There are no drop ceilings. There are no hidden pipes. It is a concrete box designed to be secure. There is literally nowhere to hide a water source.
And what happens?
Officer Wahlberg, one of the guards, checks on Don, and he finds him soaking wet. There is water pooling on the floor. And water is, according to the official report, oozing from the concrete walls and falling from the ceiling.
Oozing from concrete.
In a concrete box. Officer Wahlberg is stunned. He calls his superior Lieutenant Keenhold. Now, these are not guys who want to write a report about magic rain. They are law enforcement. They are pragmatic. They deal with criminals, not ghosts.
What did Keenhold say? What did he do?
He confirmed it. He went into the cell himself. He described a mist hanging in the air. He described the air being unnaturally cold, and he noted a very specific smell.
Ozone.
Ozone, that sharp metallic smell you get after a lightning strike or around high-voltage electrical equipment.
Which suggests energy, a high-energy discharge. It's not just water. It's ionized air. It's a physics event.
Exactly. And also a sulfurous smell, which has other, more ominous connotations.
Now, Don wasn't just sitting there enjoying a shower. He was being attacked, wasn't he?
Yes. This wasn't a passive event like the rain at the Kiefer house. This was violent. Don was being thrown around the cell.
By what?
By an invisible force. He was lifted off his bunk and slammed against the wall. The guards saw it happen.
He had marks on him.
He had scratches appearing on his neck and cheeks. 3 long scratches, like claw marks. Witnesses saw the marks form in real time with no one touching him.
That is next level. And there was the incident with the cross.
Yes. He was given a gold cross for protection. He was holding it, and he claimed it burned him. He dropped it, screaming. There were burn marks on his palm found later.
Now this brings up the inevitable conflict. The prison is freaking out. They don't know what to do. They can't explain it. They can't control it. So they bring in the chaplain.
The intersection of the scientific and the religious. The chaplain comes in, presumably to perform an exorcism, or at least pray. He sees this as demonic. He's looking at the scratches, the sulfur smell, the reaction to the cross.
And how did the glitch react to prayer?
Violently. When the chaplain started praying, the water intensified. It turned from drops into a thick, choking mist. The chaplain actually reported feeling an invisible pressure on his chest, choking him.
Wow.
He couldn't breathe. He had to leave the cell. The religious intervention made it worse.
That feels very The Exorcist. But you, as the expert, you're leaning away from demons and more towards the RSBK theory.
I am. Because if we look at the profile extreme trauma, the death of the abuser, the ozone smell of energy discharge, the force, the scratches, it fits the profile of psychokinesis perfectly.
So the demon is just a label.
The demon explanation is a cultural interpretation of the energy. Don was terrified, he felt guilty, he felt rage. That energy had to go somewhere, so it became water, it became force, it became scratches. It was his own psyche attacking him.
He manifested his trauma as matter. He essentially printed his trauma onto the physical world.
And interestingly, it stopped.
When they released him.
When he calmed down. Once the initial shock of the funeral and the return to prison faded, the rain stopped. He finished his sentence. But, and this is a fascinating footnote, he claimed that minor instances happened later in life.
Really? Like what?
Yes, specifically when his children would cry.
Oh, wow.
He said if they were very distressed, sometimes lights would flicker or a cup would fall off a shelf.
So the phenomenon was linked directly to emotional distress.
Directly. It wasn't a ghost haunting a house. It was a glitch in Don's interface with the world. His brain was misfiring and rewriting the physics around him.
That is profound and disturbing. It suggests that our internal states are not as contained as we think. We might be leaking onto reality.
Which is a very scary thought.
So we've had a village frozen in time. We've had a man who could make it rain indoors through sheer stress. Now I'm going to jump forward. We are leaving the analog world of 1983 and coming to the digital age, the year of Unfavorable Semicircle.
This is a case that really highlights how the internet has become a new frontier for these anomalies. It takes the ghost in the machine concept and makes it literal.
Okay, for those who weren't on Reddit in 2015, break this down. What was Unfavorable Semicircle?
It was a YouTube channel. It appeared on April 5, 2015. On the surface, it looked like junk. Just thousands of videos with titles like LOC 2819 or weird strings of numbers.
But it wasn't the content that was the problem initially. It was the volume, right? The sheer scale of it.
Correct. This channel was uploading videos at an impossible rate. We are talking about 72,000 videos in 9 months.
Let's do the math on that. That is insane.
It comes out to roughly 1 video every few minutes, 24 hours a day, nonstop, sometimes up to 3 videos per minute.
No human can do that. You can't render, export, and upload that fast manually. Even a dedicated team couldn't do that. It's technically not feasible.
Exactly. This suggests automation. It suggests an AI or a bot. But why? What was in the videos?
That's the creepy part. Describe the visuals for us.
They were short, usually just a few seconds long. Abstract geometric shapes, flickering colors, static. Sometimes just a few random pixels dancing on a screen. And the sound. The sound was often a high-pitched screeching or a low, garbled distortion.
And people reported physical effects from watching them, right? This wasn't just weird, it was affecting people.
Yes. Viewers reported nausea, dizziness, and disorientation, likely psychoacoustic effects from the specific frequencies used in the audio. It was almost weaponized sound.
But the internet loves a puzzle. They didn't just ignore it. They started playing the game.
A community formed on Reddit to decode it. They suspected it was an ARG, an alternate reality game, maybe a marketing stunt for a movie or a video game.
And they found things hidden in the files.
They used steganography.
Can you explain that for the non-techies?
Sure. Steganography is the practice of hiding data inside another file, like hiding a text message inside the code of a JPEG image. When the investigators ran the audio of these videos through a spectrogram, which basically visualizes sound waves as a picture, they found images embedded in the sound.
That's incredible. What kind of images?
The faceless man.
Right.
A recurring image of a man in silhouette with no face. And images of space, constellations. The Sagittarius symbol appeared frequently in the titles and in the spectrograms.
Okay, so we have a bot uploading thousands of videos with hidden pictures of space and faceless man. But then they found the coordinates.
This is where it moves from weird art project to genuine mystery. The audio decoding of one particular series of videos produced a specific set of GPS coordinates.
Where do they point? To a desert? A building?
A random spot in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Just water.
Open ocean, but not the surface. The data pointed to a depth, about 3,000 feet deep.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to come back to the ocean. Because the thing that really freaked people out was the sentience, right? This wasn't just a broadcast, it was listening.
That's right. This is what separates it from a simple art project. When investigators on Reddit or Discord would post a new theory like, I think this is a code based on binary, the channel would react.
In real time.
Almost immediately. The new videos would change, the patterns would shift, the symbols would change to reflect the discussion happening online.
It was watching the people who were watching it.
It created a feedback loop, it was learning from its investigators, and it became aggressive.
How so?
After YouTube suspended the channel in February 2016 for spam, which is fair, 72,000 videos of spam, then came back 3 weeks later. But the new videos were different. They were longer, darker. We're talking 10-hour videos of silent black screens.
It's like it was sulking. Or waiting.
Or broadcasting a carrier signal, just pure empty beta.
And then the grand theory emerged.
Yeah.
The connection to NASA. This is where it gets really wild.
This is the leading theory for those who don't believe it was just a prank. The community managed to stitch together a series of videos, and the data decoded perfectly into the Voyager Golden Record.
The record we sent into space on the Voyager probe. The one with music and greetings to say hello to aliens.
The very same. The sounds of Earth, pictures, scientific data. The channel was broadcasting pieces of it, but there's another date connection that is even more specific.
What's that?
The channel, Unfavorable Semicircle, deleted itself, completely wiped its own existence on September 15th, 2017.
Does that date mean something?
That was the exact day down to the hour that NASA retired the Cassini probe by crashing it into Saturn.
Whoa. So the channel starts with Voyager data and dies with the Cassini probe. That's too specific to be a coincidence.
It implies a direct connection to deep space communication, or at least an obsession with it.
Well, what about the ocean? You said the coordinates pointed to the Atlantic. How does that fit in?
Right. Remember those coordinates? 3,000 feet down.
Bro.
Researchers dug into archives. They looked at declassified Navy sonar data from 1982 for that specific location.
Okay.
The sonar picked up a 130-foot metallic object resting on the seafloor at that exact location.
Get out of here, seriously.
It's in the records. An anomaly. Something large, something metallic, sitting at the coordinates broadcast by a YouTube channel 33 years later.
So let's put this all together. We have a YouTube channel that behaves like a rogue AI, bypassing YouTube's processing limits, which engineers confirmed, by the way. It shouldn't have been possible.
Right. It was uploading from an offline data center in Iceland, somehow getting priority processing.
It uploads at impossible speeds. It reacts to its audience. It's obsessed with space probes. And it is broadcasting coordinates to a metallic object at the bottom of the Atlantic that was detected in 1982.
And when the Cassini probe died, the channel died.
What are the theories? Is it a number station? Spies talking to submarines?
That's the rational theory. A modern version of those old shortwave radio stations that read numbers to spies. The Atlantic location would make sense for submarines, but why use YouTube? It's too public. Number stations are usually hidden. This was shouting.
What about the art project theory? Someone eventually claimed it, didn't they?
A creator did come forward years later claiming it was an art project. But, and it's a big but, They couldn't explain the technical anomalies.
The processing bypass.
They couldn't explain how they bypassed the YouTube processing times, and the creator couldn't explain the 1982 sonar match. They claimed it was a coincidence.
So the confession feels like a cover-up, or someone taking credit for a fire they didn't start.
It feels incomplete. It doesn't account for the glitch aspect of the technology itself, the impossibilities.
The signal, that's what they call it.
Yes. The idea is that the YouTube channel was just a relay, a way to amplify a signal that was coming from somewhere else.
Maybe from that object in the ocean?
Maybe from that object in the ocean, or maybe from Saturn via Cassini.
And using our own infrastructure against us. That is the ultimate digital glitch.
It is. It's the ghost in the machine, and the machine is now global.
Okay, let's take a breath. We have been to a frozen village in 1957. We have been inside a storm in a prison cell in 1983, and we have stared into the digital abyss of 2015.
3 very different cases spanning 60 years.
But they share DNA, don't they? They feel connected in some way.
They do. In all 3 cases, we have a breakdown of the expected order. In Kersy, time broke. In Decker's cell, matter broke. With Unfavorable Semicircle, the digital logic broke.
And in all 3 cases, we have the records. We have the Navy cadet's word, we have the prison warden's log, we have the data timestamps, and the sonar records.
That's the uncanny valley of reality we started with. We have proof that these things happen, but we have no framework to accept them. They sit in that uncomfortable middle ground between fact and impossible.
It makes you wonder how porous the walls of our reality actually are. Are these isolated incidents? Or are we just noticing the glitches because we're looking for them?
That's the question. Are we living in a system that is prone to bugs? And if so, who is the programmer?
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to chew on tonight. We talked about unfavorable semicircle and that metallic object in the Atlantic.
The one at the coordinates?
The channel is gone. The Cassini probe is gone. But that object, whatever was pinged on sonar in 1982, it's presumably still down there, 3,000 feet deep, in the dark.
Waiting.
If stress can make it rain indoors, and if a village can freeze in time, what exactly is waiting at those coordinates? And is the glitch actually the system trying to tell us something? Is it a warning, or is it just static?
That is a disturbing thought to end on.
I try my best. Check the show notes, everyone. We've got the coordinates. We've got the images of the faceless man. Don't stare at them too long. Until next time, keep watching the static.